Hey everyone, welcome to our next class of cognitive behavioural therapy training. Today we are going to be looking more at our own cognitive errors and the way that our beliefs can literally shape and twist reality. So let's get started. So one of the things that human beings always do is we do this thing called cherry picking. What does that mean? We cherry pick the data. Now, let's go back a little bit. Let's look at newspapers or magazine articles. So when a journalist writes an article, what do? They look and they choose the relevant data to support their argument. Now, a lot of the time, they'll only look at one side of the information. They'll only look at one side of the story. If they looked at both sides, then they wouldn't have such a clear story. So what they do is they cherry pick information. You cherry pick the right information, and then that allows you to tell a particular story, a particular headline. Now, that's something that journalists do. It's something that our governments and politicians do when they look at one side of the story, or they only look at a few particular facts. But it's also something that we as human beings do. We all do it. We do it all the time. So it's everywhere. And I guess it's easy to point the finger at politicians or journalists, and we can get frustrated why they don't do it, but we do it ourselves. We cherry pick information. So when we have a belief about ourselves, we cherry pick the information. When we have a belief about somebody else, we cherry pick the information. You might think somebody's an idiot, but if you looked at all of the information, not just the bad things they've done, but the good things they've done, it'd be difficult for you to hold that view of someone. You might think somebody's selfish, and maybe if you're just looking at a few events to support your claim, like one or two events, you'd be right. But if you looked at their whole life, if you looked at all of the situations they were in, maybe it'd be a bit more difficult to have that opinion that they were selfish. So what we're doing is we're cherry picking information, and we do the same ourselves. So for example, if I had the belief that I'm a failure, I would cherry pick the information. Maybe I'd remember, that time last year when I lost my job, or maybe I remember that time when I was at school and I didn't pass my exams. Maybe I'd look at a couple of situations, 3, 4, maybe 5, but you can see that I'm cherry picking the information, saying, okay, I'll choose that bit of information and I'll choose this bit of information. We're cherry picking the data. We're not looking at all the information. In life, at any one point, there are thousands and millions of signals of information and data coming towards us. And as human beings, we will just choose a very small number of data points. So we're cherry picking the information to support our belief. Let's say I have the belief that I'm useless. Again, what information am I remembering to prove that I'm useless? Again, I'm going to be cherry picking the information. Oh yeah, there was that time when this didn't work out, or there was this time when my boss didn't treat me right, or there was a time when I was young. And again, what we're doing is we're scanning the environment to find evidence to prove what we believe is right. Now, there's another system that you might not have heard of. It's called transactional analysis, but they have a similar theory that we have beliefs about ourselves, and then we spend our life trying to find evidence or confirmations to prove that what we think is right. And we do it all the time. So we're just like our journalists, and we're just like our politicians. If you had the belief that I must not let anyone down, again, think about the evidence to support that, and what evidence are you cherry picking? You might just have 1 or 2 situations that prove to you that you shouldn't let anyone down. Just 1 or 2 bits of evidence. You're cherry picking the data. There's literally thousands, millions of data signals, and you choose to ignore them all, and you just choose to focus or cherry pick the few bits of information that support what you do. Now, this is a really big thing for you to understand. It might seem quite simple, but the important thing is to be aware that this is something that you are doing, to be aware and notice. That's all you need to do at the moment, just notice. You might be wondering, well, how can I change this? Well, one of the ways that you change it is by learning to question your beliefs. That's what I'm teaching you, but also to bring awareness to your machinery, bring awareness to your mechanics, to notice how it all works together. If we had the belief, I must not make any mistakes, again, what evidence are you cherry picking? What are you focusing on? What are you ignoring? It's something we're doing as human beings permanently. We're always scanning our environment, our radar, looking for evidence to prove or support what we believe. And that is how you keep your thoughts, your rigid thoughts and your beliefs, that's how you keep them in place. That's how you stay stuck, by only cherry picking the right information. So you've already heard me say it once, but we not only cherry pick, but we also ignore other information. So we pick certain facts and then we ignore other facts. We totally ignore them. And that's the other way, that's the other side of the coin, how we go about maintaining our unhealthy beliefs. It sounds crazy, right? Why would we ignore something that was right in front of us? It makes no sense. But our ego structure, our defensive personality, our defensive structures, they are unconscious. They don't make any sense. We are not aware. We are unconscious. They are automatic. They're just doing what they do automatically. And the important thing for you to begin doing is to begin bringing awareness and noticing how you do it. For example, if you did have the belief that I'm a failure, and then you go around and something good happens, you pass an exam, you get a job promotion, who knows? Somebody invites you on holiday, you might just ignore that. You say, oh, well, that doesn't count. That's not relevant. You see, we can push down or ignore any positive things that are happening to us. You might be feeling depressed, and then something good happens and you might ignore good or positive aspects while focusing on the negative, cherry picking negative thoughts, negative memories, and then avoiding or ignoring positive ones. That's how the game works. Focusing on the negative, ignoring the positive, cherry picking certain data, ignoring other data. That's how the machine works. So whenever you are experiencing a difficult situation, whenever you're struggling emotionally, you're dealing with emotional stress, that's what you've got to look out for. What information are you focusing on? What information are you cherry picking? And what information are you avoiding? I guarantee you, if you began to integrate all of that into your view, you wouldn't have the same belief. That's just a fact. Okay, so finally, let's look at another thing we do to keep our beliefs in place, to stay stuck. It's very common nowadays, this idea called emotional reasoning. And some people believe that because I feel a particular way, that tells me that it's true. They're saying because I have this feeling, this is true. And by that regard, what that means is everything that you feel, you think is true. Now, in the CBT world, we would say this is impossible. It's impossible for it to happen all the time or for you to be true all the time. And let me tell you why. In CBT, we say that the reason that we feel a particular way is because of our emotions, right? As opposed to the way we feel being to do with external reality. Yes, external reality has a role to play, but it's not definitive. So for example, if you had 10 people and they all lost their job, would they all feel the same way? And the answer is no. So the same thing happens to them, the same thing in external reality, but they feel differently. 10 people get rejected on a digital date. Do they all feel the same way? No, they all feel differently. Now, if external reality was responsible for how we feel, then everyone would feel the same way. And the truth of the matter is we don't. We all feel differently because we interpret situations differently. Our interpretation, our attitude, our perception, filtered through our beliefs, is different. So yes, our emotions can be an indicator for the truth. They can give us a sense of the truth. They can help guide us, and sometimes our intuition can help direct us towards the truth. But are our emotions, do they tell us exactly what is the truth? And the answer is no, not always. And sometimes, yes, our emotions can give us a sense of a deeper truth, a deeper meaning, but it doesn't mean that it happens all the time. And a lot of the time, most of the time, our emotions are based on our own programming, our own negative beliefs. Everyone's wearing their own sunglasses. Everyone's looking at life through their own lens, and they interpret it their own way. They have what we call their own reality tunnel, and I'm going to talk to you more about reality tunnels in some of my other videos. But emotional reasoning is not true all the time, and again, it keeps your beliefs stuck, because if everything you feel is true, well, there you go, there's just nothing you can do about it. You're dependent on external reality. You're dependent on everything else to change, on the world to change, on other people to change, and it leaves you with no power. Okay, so that's all for today, folks. We've just been looking at some of the different ways that we can keep our rigid beliefs stuck, we can keep ourselves trapped. And as you start to implement these changes, you're going to begin to notice changes in your life in terms of how you can shift how you think and feel and act. So good luck out there, and I will catch you later. Bye.